Hello, you are watching Metamorphosis on Southland TV. I am your host, Renee Tabor, sitting in the Southland TV green room with Dave Benjamin. Dave is the Executive Director of the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you being here. Many people are not aware of Dave's mission, and so now is the opportunity. We are going to shine a light on Dave's mission, and I'd like to start out by introducing you. I know that you grew up in the south suburbs, fellow Rich East alum, go Rockets. Shameless plug there, I know. But you have a story, and I want to talk a little bit about what you do at the Great Lakes Surf
Rescue Project.
Surf Rescue Project.
Yes. I am the co-founder and executive director of the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project, and what we do is we track the drownings in the Great Lakes. We teach Great Lakes water safety. We work with family and friends of drowning victims to advocate water safety, and we also do open water surf lifeguard training. And I got involved with this, to go back, as ever since I could crawl, I've been at the pool. My parents had me at the Park Forest Aqua Center every summer of my life. Growing up, I had formal swim lessons, excellent, swimming in a pool. Every summer of my life, also been to the Great Lakes, especially Lake Michigan, West Beach, Wall Street Beach, the Indiana Dunes, Warren Dunes. Every summer, it was like we didn't go a weekend without going to the beach. And in 2010, I was surfing in Lake Michigan in the wintertime, and I had a drowning accident. I had a really bad wipeout, caught a wave late, and got tossed, got the wind knocked out of me when I hit the water, then the wave closed out on me. It was wintertime, and not a lot of people are familiar with winter surfing, but it was the day after Christmas, 2010, and I get the wind knocked out of me, the wave closed out of me, I'm choking on water, getting pushed to the bottom, 30-degree water is flushing through my wetsuit, and I'm just like instant panic. And thinking I'm not going to get out of this. I'm trying to get back up to the surface, and I'm getting up to the surface almost to get a breath of air, and another wave is pushing me back down, and I'm just complete freak out. Then I realized my surfboard, which was attached to my leg with a leash, the Velcro failed, and now I know I'm without my surfboard, so that even increases my panic, tenfold. I get back up to the surface, and I'm trying to yell for help, but I'm choking on water. I was two guys I was surfing with, but they're further out in the water. And another wave is coming down on me, and I'm thinking, like, this is it. I'm not going to make it. I'm done for. And while I'm thinking of holding my last breath, I remember an article called "Drowning Doesn't Look Like Drowning" by Mario Vitone. He was a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. And in it describes the signs of drowning as facing shore, mouth at water level, head tilted back, climbing the ladder motion. And I realize I'm doing all the signs of drowning. The more I'm struggling to get to the surface of the water, the more I'm, expending all of my energy, the more I'm submerging. And so I just laid back and I did nothing. And then I have a wetsuit on, which is very buoyant, 6mm wetsuit, winter wetsuit, and get back up to the surface of the water, and I get my breathing under control. I'm hacking and coughing up the water. My surfboard is behind me, getting thrown into a rock wall, which was all iced over. And I'm thinking, okay, I can survive this with this wetsuit on. I'm not going to get hypothermia. I can got my breathing under control. When the waves are coming, instead of being at the impact of it, I'm duck diving underneath it. But now the next problem was I'm in this current, which is pulling me further out along the break wall. And I'm thinking, okay, now I got to get away from this break wall, because now not only that is the waves are pushing me towards the break wall, and the break wall is about 15 feet high. It's all iced over. There's no climbing out of it. My surfboard is getting torn into pieces, and so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to backstroke away from the wall. But from the start of the wipeout to the time I get to shore, it's probably about 40 minutes. And I was in this swirl where I'm going out along the break wall. I'm trying to backstroke away from it. The waves would push me back in. I'm just in this swirl. And it was like the third or fourth time I backstroked away from it. I was like, I'm just going to keep going so I can get far enough away from the break while the waves push me all the way back to shore. And when I climbed out, I was like, wow, that article really saved my life there. And I was in a leadership program at the time, and we do community projects, and I figured I'll do something for advocate water safety. I was also, at the time, hearing about a lot of drownings in the Great Lakes. through a surfing forum. People were posting articles about drownings, about rescuing swimmers in rip currents that year, and through the networking, through the Third Coast Surf Shop forum, people put me in contact with a guy named Bob Pratt, and he is actually the original founder of the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project, water safety expert, does water safety advocacy, and had a Facebook page. And so I teamed up with him as I'll organize the classes and you lead them. And the plan was we're just going to do one class for our fellow surfers, to teach people how to use their surfboard as a rescue device, also about the dangerous currents in the Great Lakes. And then that was June of 2011, and since then now we're almost 300 presentations in 7 of the 8 Great Lakes states.
And why do you think that is, that you've had so many presentations?
Well, because there's been so many drownings. Unfortunately, one of the things we do is we track the drownings in the Great Lakes. And since 2010 now, there's been 505 drownings in the Great Lakes, plus 5 that are currently in critical condition as of the last update we've heard about them. That's a lot of drownings, for a short swimming season in the Great Lakes. And we'll see that on average there's more drownings in the Great Lakes each year than will be on the East Coast and West Coast combined. And so that's just like, a huge, huge problem. Why is that? Why? What's the difference here between water safety on the oceans versus the Great Lakes? And what we see is there's just a big lack of water safety culture. And with our presentations, while we greatly increased our presentations, was doing presentations in schools. So elementary, junior high, high school presentations, and we can see a much larger audience. We could do a public presentation at the beach where we might get 20 to 100 people that would show up. But if we're going to go to a school that has 2,000 students, we're going to see the attendance that day. Whoever's there going, in school that day, if they're not sick, they're going to see us. One of these is what we look at, if we want to increase our audience and make the biggest impact, is school presentations. Reach the largest audience in the shortest amount of time to make the biggest impact. In schools today, they have fire drills, they have tornado drills, they have school shooter drills, they even have earthquake drills in Illinois and Indiana. And then, do you remember how bad that last earthquake was in Illinois or Indiana? And I'm not saying that it's not important to have earthquake drills and the other drills, but when we look at the overall statistics, more school-age children will likely die drowning each year than in fires, tornadoes, school shootings, and earthquakes combined. So why is there no water safety in schools? And it's just a huge, huge problem. And when we look at the big picture of drowning, even the World Health Organization says that drowning continues to be a neglected public health issue that continues to happen with an alarmingly high rate around the world. Now, that was last year. The World Health Organization says drowning is a neglected public health issue. Not much happens. This year, the World Health Organization says Zika is a public health issue. And immediately, the president is seeking $1 billion in funding for research, education, outreach. Congress is, countering with 200 to 300 million. I don't think it's resolved yet. But there's like immediate action, immediate funding, immediate, everybody, knows Zika right now. And last year it was Ebola. And, the big scare was Ebola, people coming to the United States. And I'm not saying that Zika and Ebola is not important. I'm just saying that there's a huge disconnect between water safety, advocacy, funding, education, versus other public health education. Fires, tornadoes, school shooters, bullying, internet safety, it's all way up here. Zika, Ebola, but water safety is way down here. It's a neglected public health issue. And if we don't address the reasons why it's a neglected public health issue, it's going to remain a public health issue. And I look at several factors. I've been doing this for 5.5 years, which really isn't a long time, but I've really, submerged myself, I'm going to put a pun on it, into this. And I see the culture of water safety, not just in the Great Lakes region, but kind of nationwide. This is how it works. I call it the vicious cycle of the drowning epidemic. So each year, millions on top of millions of dollars are spent to bring more people to water. People who don't know that drowning is one of the leading causes of accidental death, people who don't have the basic swimming ability to save their own lives in a water emergency, people who unknowingly support the stigma of drowning, which is blame the victim, blame the parents or caregivers, or blame it on Darwinism. And then a drowning happens, and then nothing really happens. And then we continue to spend millions of dollars to bring people to water. And so for each one of these bullet points, there's sub-bullet points. I have a presentation on this. But if we look at each year millions of dollars are spent to bring more people to water, since 2009, over $1 billion has been spent on beach restoration projects, parking lots, water access, pedestrian bridges over Lakeshore Drive. Not that I'm opposed to those. I'm all for those, but I believe that there should be money earmarked for water safety, especially for lifeguards, and especially for open water surf lifeguard trained lifeguards. Pool certificates are not adequate for the beach. And unfortunately, what we've seen, we do a lot of work with lifeguard crews, is that it's up to the additional training that they may provide. And it depends who's doing the training, and what's the training that's happening. So we've seen that there's a huge, some beaches are outstanding, and some beaches are lacking, and so we got to merge them together. But going back to each year, millions of dollars are spent to bring more people to water. I love Michigan. We all have heard the Pure Michigan campaign. On average, about $30 million per year is spent to bring people to Michigan. 1 in 5 jobs in Michigan is related to water. You can't go anywhere in Michigan without, whether it's a Great Lakes or an inland lake or a water park or a hotel with a pool. And, I'm all for it and really love Michigan and everything it has to offer for tourism. But at the same time, it's just one example of how this happens in the Great Lakes states as well as nationwide. So we need to educate people about water safety. And then the next bullet point is people who don't know that drowning is one of the leading causes of accidental death. So when they break down the numbers, drowning is the leading cause of accidental death for children 1 to 4. It's the second leading cause of accidental death for children 1 to 14, second only to car accidents. For the nation as a whole, it's the 5th leading cause of accidental death. In the world as a whole, it's a 3rd leading cause of accidental death. So, again, most people don't know that. And if you don't know that water is a leading cause of accidental death, you're not going to be as safe around water. Okay, and then so millions of dollars are spent to bring more people to water. People who don't know that drowning is a leading cause of accidental death. People who don't have the basic swimming ability to save their own lives in a water emergency. The Red Cross did a survey, and in the survey, their findings is that 54% of Americans don't have the basic swimming ability to save their own lives. And that's 5 basic skills: falling in water over their head and being able to resurface, being able to tread water for 1 minute, being able to spin around 360 degrees to spot an exit, being able to swim 25 yards to get to the exit, and then being able to get out of the water without any assistance. And so those 5 basic skills were tested in a pool in a controlled environment. And that's 54% of Americans, on average, can't swim that well. And oftentimes people think like, well, I know how to swim, I don't have to worry about drowning. My children know how to swim, they don't have to worry about drowning. Well, that's equivalent to me saying, well, I know how to run, I'm going to run a marathon. Okay. I haven't dieted for the marathon. I haven't trained for the marathon. I don't have running shoes for the marathon.
Let's go.
Right. But this is the thing, is if I were to attempt it, like I'm going to sprint out of here and I'll see you in 2 miles when I'm sitting on a park bench, if I overestimate my ability, then I can just sit down and take a break. In water, if you overestimate your ability, it's likely fatal unless somebody's there to rescue you, throw you something that floats. So there's just a huge disconnect between water safety and what people perceive as what they know. So 54% of Americans don't have the basic swimming skills to save their own lives. Now, if you throw in wind and waves and dangerous currents and cold water, that 54% of America is shrinking down to maybe like 10% of Americans would have the swimming ability to save their own lives. And so that's just another huge factor. Another like simple bullet point of water safety is that 80% of drowning victims are male. Okay, so why is that? And the research shows that just males across the board have a tendency to overestimate abilities, take risks, more susceptible to peer pressure because of the special skills men have. And
that's another segment.
And unfortunately, that's deadly around water. If you overestimate your ability in water, unfortunately, I think there was a 15-year-old in Waukegan. He swam across the boat channel and made it. He swam about halfway back and submerged. And so, knowing your true swimming ability, knowing that if men overestimate our abilities in water, it's often deadly. Peer pressure. Did we
You
know?
said letting go. Letting go was a huge portion, right? Because you were fighting it
Right.
in the beginning, and so you were able to let go and float to the surface instead of fighting it. So I think it's against the natural thought that many people have.
And it's also part of just the current standards of education for water safety. It's like if you get caught in a rip current, the standard is don't panic, swim parallel. It works better in the ocean where the waves might be 15 to 30 seconds apart. So the crest of one wave to the crest of the next wave, you got a time period. You get hit in the face with the wave, you choke. You might have 15 seconds until the next wave hits you. Great Lakes waves, the wave period is about 3 to 6 seconds. So if you get hit in the face with the wave, if you get overcome or fatigued, every 3 seconds, imagine a wave is on top of you. So that's like another thing is the standard is, and there's people who will not let go of don't panic, swim parallel to shore. The problems I personally dislike about it is don't panic. It's important to know, but it's not like a life-saving technique. Panic is like the overwhelm inside your head. So my definition of panic is an emotional and irrational overreaction to a situation or circumstance. So if you're drowning, you're fighting for your life, and you're panicking, and you're fearful. And the typical thing is people think is, okay, I gotta, don't panic, but I'm gonna continue panicking, and now I gotta swim, so now I gotta exert my energy. Remember, 54% of Americans don't have the basic swimming ability to save their own lives, but we're telling them to swim. And then swim parallel. Rip currents are not always perfect perpendicular to shore. They may pull out at an angle. They may pull out after the sandbar, and then they may mushroom out. So then they may turn parallel to shore. So depending where you are in the rip current, swimming parallel to shore, you may have a 50-50 chance of swimming against the current. And also what we know on the Great Lakes with dangerous currents, some of the bigger problems are the wind and waves hit the beach at an angle. Say northwest wind is coming down, it's hitting the Michigan coast at an angle. Well, it's going to create a longshore current that goes parallel to shore. When that longshore current hits a pier, it's going to go parallel to the pier. So it can get confusing if you think automatically swim parallel to shore because you might swim against the current. Longshore currents are parallel to shore, structural currents are parallel to the structure. And so now if you're trying to remember all of this, swim parallel. Now
on top of remain calm.
Right, but on top of this, you're expending all your energy, and once you gas out your energy, you're going to submerge. So, so knowing all of these different things, these different circumstances. Also, when you're drowning, your point of view of the world is your neckline. You might not be able to see a landmass to assess which way you're being pulled. And again, that's part of the panic. It's overwhelming. You're like, it's really, your body's engulfed in water, and the next thing is submerging. So it's completely overwhelming. So what we advocate is that if you're ever drowning, if you're ever struggling in water over your head, is that you flip, float, and follow. And it's like the stop, drop, and roll of fire safety. So the way it works is you flip over on your back and you float. The emphasis is on floating. You float to keep your head above water. You float to conserve your energy. You float to calm yourself down from the fear and panic of drowning. And then you follow the safest path out of the water. Okay? So essentially, floating versus swimming. Floating, you're trying to relax, you're trying to lean back, trying to get your breathing clear, inflating your lungs. Your lungs are like your buoyancy vest. When you're panicking, you're hyperventilating, you're exhaling more than you're inhaling, so you're deflating your lungs. But if you can get your breathing under control and you're laying back, just relax. The breathing is the priority. Mm-hmm. You have to stay at the surface of the water if you want to survive a drowning accident. Mm-hmm. And so float, relax. Go ahead and panic, but just float and panic.
Remember to breathe.
Yeah,
it's important.
But the breathing is important. Getting your breathing under control, and then assess which way is the safest path out of the water. And that's usually the biggest question we get about flip, float, and follow. They're confused about follow. What does follow mean? Well, it's follow the safest path out of the water. What is the safest path out of the water? It's going to depend on the body of water, the conditions of the water, and the person's physical swimming ability and swimming endurance. So follow might just mean float for as long as you can, try and signal for someone to help, to get a boat to you, a jet ski to you, a throw ring to you, a surfer come rescue you. Okay.
How many people drown on their own versus having somebody with them? You said you had a couple of friends earlier that were with you, right? But are there a lot of instances where people go out by themselves, or does it happen around a friend often?
It's kind of hard to say because that's not something that's necessarily tracked, but there was a statistic that almost all drowning victims are within 10 feet of help. Okay. It's just that, another thing that contributes to drowning is most people don't know what drowning looks like. So,
because we hear the buddy system a lot, and while that's a good idea, I think it's important for people to know that you can have someone nearby and still be in trouble.
There's pros and cons to the buddy system. Obviously, it is safer in numbers. If you have trouble, they may be able to assist you. They may be able to get something to you that floats. They may be able to call 911 or alert a lifeguard. Unfortunately, we've seen the buddy system fail because a friend is in trouble, and then the friend goes to help them, and then they both end up drowning. So we call it the would-be rescuer. Oftentimes, would-be rescuers become the drowning victim. And there's a high percentage of that in the Great Lakes as well. So oftentimes within 10 feet of help. So what happens is a person, if they're swimming, and they become a distressed swimmer, and they start to lag a little bit, then they go vertical, and they start doing the signs of drowning, typically facing shore, facing the exit, mouth to water level, head tilted back, climbing the ladder motion. They're no longer making any forward progress. And when someone's doing those signs of drownings, it's typically less than 60 seconds until final submersion, because they've exhausted all their energy. They don't know to take a break and to float. I often say a drowning accident is a marathon for your life. If you want to survive it, it's not about how fast you can get out of the water. It's about, can you survive long enough to get out of the water? Can you survive long enough to self-rescue or for somebody to rescue? And so, it's one of the bullet points that we educate people on is just the signs of drowning. People don't know what drowning looks like. We say there's a Hollywood version of drowning, which is like the old Baywatch TV shows, which is a lot of yelling and splashing and waving, a traumatic event that lasts several minutes, long enough to put that theme music on and have that slow motion lifeguard running down the beach, scantily clad, and and that's I love Baywatch. Watched it several times a day in college. It was like back in the 90s. They had like 3 replays of it for dinner time. But unfortunately, people and other movies call on to drowning is a long traumatic event that is very noticeable. Now, a swimmer in distress may be like that, but usually not for long. And once someone is actively drowning, facing shore, mouth to water level, head tilted back, climbing a ladder, they're hyperventilating, less than 60 seconds until final submersion. So it's, you have seconds to get to that person, and help is often minutes away. And people may be, within reach, but they don't know, because people often think, well, if I'm at the beach, I can hear my child's voice through the crowd. If they get in trouble, they're going to yell for help, and I'm going to be right there, and I'm going to check my Facebook. And, unfortunately, that's not how it works. Drowning is silent. Very little yelling, very little splashing, very little waving. And so, we got to educate people on, this is what you need to look for.
So what can our viewers do to help educate the population about drowning? I mean, there is this idea that, okay, we're in the Midwest and we don't have to worry about it as much, or I don't go to the beach all the time. And that number, by the way, is strictly in the Great Lakes, correct?
Right.
It doesn't include bathtubs or pools or any other bodies of water where people become distressed and drown.
Right. So we track the drownings just in the Great Lakes. And we know, I mean, I get these reports daily of people drowning in pools or bathtubs or 5-gallon buckets or in a retention pond, or even boating in inland lakes. You know, we get this, but we're solely short-staffed and tracking just the drownings in the Great Lakes. And it's a much bigger problem. So if we want to really reduce the numbers of drownings in the Great Lakes, we advocate for a national water safety school curriculum. It must be in the schools. So again, as I said earlier, in schools today, there's fire drills, there's tornado drills, there's school shooter drills, there's even earthquake drills in Illinois and Indiana, as well as other states. And you know, it doesn't make any sense that there's no water safety education in schools. It's likely that more school-age children will die drowning each year than in fires, tornadoes, school shooters, and earthquakes combined. So it's time now for a water safety school curriculum. So if people really want to help get the word out, it's speak to your teachers, speak to your principals, get us in your schools, help us with funding to, you know, right now it's just 2 guys doing school presentations where we need 1,000 of us doing school presentations. So, you know, we have outlines and storyboards for water safety videos, and we just need to get them funded, a train the trainer program, because it can be, you know, the same as October has Fire Safety Week. The kids go to the firehouse, or the fire department comes to the schools, where the teachers are leading a program in the schools, and, you know, more school-age children are going to die drowning than in fires, but we still have fire safety in school. You know, so we need this in schools, and we need everyone to become a water safety advocate, a water watcher designated to watching the water whenever they're at the pool or the beach.
Not just waiting for that dramatic splash.
Right, and it's always best to swim at a lifeguard pool or beach, but also remember the lifeguards are not babysitters. They're watching the entire water, and you have your children and the children in your group that you should make, you know, your priority as an adult. There should always be someone who's designated to watch the water and watch the children.
And how would people be able to reach you? How can they contact you so that they can help you?
Our website is glsrp.org. They can also look us up on Facebook. So it's facebook.com/glsrp. And then, that's the easiest way. You just contact us through the website or through Facebook. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your experience and your mission, and I hope that the viewers take this as an opportunity to learn and to reach out and help Dave Benjamin and the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project. Again, this is Renee Tabor, Metamorphosis, Southland TV. Have a good one.
Thank you.